Hey guys, let's talk about last night's episode of the Vampire Diaries. And the last scene was pretty much the best part of the entire episode. And that is when we find out what Augustine is all about. And apparently, it was like this science lab where they did all these different types of studies on vampires. And Damon was one of these vampires that they studied. And that was kind of cool to find out. And he's been kidnapped and he's back where he was captured like 60 years ago. And there's like a carving on the wall with his initials and it says 53. So it'll be interesting to see what happens next week with that and who comes to save Damon, because nobody knows except for Dr. West, who is the one who's been running all these experiments. And in this episode, it focused a lot on Jesse, who was one of the students at the university that had a crush on Caroline, and he was trying to turn him into a vampire, and he did. And he used this blood that they, I guess, were using in the lab, in this Augustine lab. And what it did was it allowed him to crave blood, but the blood of a vampire and not that of a human. So he would bite the human blood, but it wouldn't really be what he would crave. Once he got a taste of vampire blood, that is what would get him going and wouldn't allow him to stop. So I thought that was kind of cool, as well as he had the same amount of strength, if not more, than Damon. And as we all know, that the older the vampire, the stronger the vampire is. So when he was about to bite Damon, and Damon was like, "Listen, I'm stronger than you, in case you don't know," and then Dr. West or Professor West pretty much says, "No, that's not true," because this experiment, I guess, revs up their strength and who knows what else it does. But so that was kind of a cool reveal at the end. The other storylines that were going on, we had. Elena and Caroline were throwing this party for Bonnie because she's back. She's now the anchor and she can exist on both sides. And I mean, for most of the party, Bonnie was MIA. Let's face it. Bonnie's not a central character on this show. So when they trot her out, it's pretty much to, move a plot point forwards, but it's not really because they want her on screen very long. And at the very beginning of the episode, she got her first dose of, somebody from the supernatural world who had died, and it turned out she was a witch, and she passed through her. And then later on in the episode, we saw her talking to her on the other side. So it was kind of interesting that they showed her on, the human side where she could see her, and then she saw her again on the other side, and she was really nice and friendly. And it was like a scene where once they pass over, they're no longer in pain, and Bonnie is the one who absorbs all their pain. And so I'm sure that there's going to come a point where the amount of pain that Bonnie can absorb is going to hit a max, and it's going to start to cripple her, and that's going to suck for her. But on the Bonnie slash Jeremy front, they got some nice hot and heavy scenes, which I think anyone who was shipping them 3 years ago when they first started to become a couple finally got the scenes that they wanted. And that was for Bonnie and Jeremy to pretty much just start making out and get down to business. And we got that in this episode. And it was kind of romantic. It was kind of cute. And then the sad part was, like I said before, Jesse had been attacking Damon, and the only way to save Damon, Elena had to stab Jesse in the back, which sucked because I thought Jesse was going to be around for a few more episodes at least. I mean, him and Caroline were having some really good scenes together, and they actually had some chemistry. So, as much as it drives me crazy that every single guy loves off Caroline on this show, I actually like the two of them together. And, she was feeling him, and now that Tyler's gone. And then at the end, Elena stabs him in the back, and he dies. So that kind of sucked. But so now that he died, he has to pass on. So, Bonnie and Jeremy were making out, and then all of a sudden she looks over and she sees Jesse standing there, and she's like, "Uh-oh, I think Jesse's dead." So and it was a sad scene too, because he was like, "I'm not ready to go," and he pretty much hold her hand, and he passes through her. She starts screaming in pain, and this is when Jeremy finds out what actually has to happen to Bonnie every single time somebody supernatural dies. And he's like, "Why didn't you tell me?" And she's like, "Listen, if this is what I have to go through so that I can touch you, so that I can be with you, I'm fine with it." So, some swoon-worthy moments between Jeremy and Bonnie. I'm sure we won't get that for a while because it took 3 years for us to get that. So anyway, so now that we know that this Augustine, I guess lab exists, it'll be interesting to see how many more vampires they can create like this. Then we had Stefan, who's been seriously going on this like torture, path because he's still, I guess, having the effects from being drowned for 3 months. And, even though he got rid of Silas in the last episode, he's still struggling with this. And him and Catherine actually, sorry, spent a lot of time together in this episode. And it was mostly her coming to terms with the fact that she's like aging and dying, as well as figuring out why her daughter Nadia had come to town in the first place with this boy named Gregor or something. And this is the guy who has pretty much jumped into Matt's body. And apparently he's a traveler. And it turns out that these travelers want Catherine dead. Why? Who knows? He was told that they needed to kill Catherine, and that's what he was there to do. And apparently this knife that he has is a special knife, and when you're stabbed with it, it'll kill the traveler. I don't know. Like this show, now that we're not talking about Silas and Katsia or Tess or Amara, it's now Augustine and it's the travelers. So, we're now moving on to some other supernatural being that's coming to try to kill Catherine. I keep wanting to say Katrina. I'm sorry. Catherine. And, she's dealing with her own stuff. She's pushing her daughter away. And at the end of the episode, she pretty much decides that she's done and she doesn't want to age gracefully. And she, pretty much tries to commit suicide and falls off of a building. And, of course, Stefan catches her. And he's like, listen, you're Catherine Pierce. Suck it up and you'll be fine. And you can see, this light bulb go off in her head that says Stefan cares about her. So I'm sure that she's going to be now on this mission to get Stefan. And Stefan is so, damaged right now that he needs a friend and he's going to Catherine for that. And I don't know, we'll see where that goes. But he really is haunted at this point and he's not coping with it very well. So, is she going to be his support system? It looks like it. All in all, the show was okay this episode, but like I said, the last reveal at the end with finding out about this Augustine lab was kind of cool. Wes knows a lot of information that we are obviously going to find out more about, and we got a little bit more about Aaron, and Aaron is actually the guardian of Professor Wes, and it turns out that his parents were apparently attacked, and of course they chalked it up to bite marks from a bear or some animal in the woods, but obviously it was vampires. So Aaron is obviously now on his own, and he still has to deal with all this, stuff from his past, just like Elena did, and not having any parents as well. So they kind of had some bonding moments in this episode as well. So we'll see where that goes. I mean, obviously her and Damon are together, but I mean, they're rarely even together on these last few episodes anyway. So I don't know if they're trying to move this guy in to be her new love interest or what, but we'll see. All right, guys, that is my review of The Vampire Diaries. I'll see you next week. Bye.